Keith Henry, thank you so much for speaking with us. Can you first start by telling us a little bit about this International Indigenous Tourism Conference happening this week in Edmonton? And how long has it been around for, and what can visitors expect?
Yeah, happy to. Thanks for having me on the show, Creason, and talk a little bit about the Indigenous tourism industry itself. This is our 13th edition of the International Indigenous Tourism Conference. In fact, we held it in Winnipeg, Manitoba, just 3 years ago. And we moved this conference around the country basically to help the world see that Canada is a world-leading Indigenous destination as part of the objective. The other part is around bringing operators together that are Indigenous-owned businesses from across the country. There's about 2,700 businesses, and we get several that come to learn about marketing and development opportunities and things like that. And then we get a very large non-Indigenous tourism, a number of delegates from different tourism companies that are trying to figure out how to learn to work more effectively with Indigenous tourism itself. So it serves a lot of purposes, and it's grown substantially. Our first conference over a decade ago was, very modest, less than 100 delegates. And now here today, we've got over 1,000 delegates here in Edmonton working and from 14 different countries. So I feel like we're doing extremely well in the industry right now.
That's so great to hear. Keith, what do you think are some of the important topics to be discussed at this conference that people in Indigenous tourism need to know about?
I think what we're trying to help our Indigenous tourism, especially the members that are here and partners, that we got to get beyond performative sort of metrics. It can't just be about, just acknowledgements and those are important, don't get me wrong. But what we want is the tourism industry to understand how to position Canada as an amazing Indigenous destination. Let's tell the truth about the history and story of the original people of these lands. And I think that's a big outcome. The title of our conference this year is Come Walk With Us. And I mean, that's intended that way because the tourism industry, has done a lot of good things, but many of our non-Indigenous partners always want to take over the narrative. They always want to tell our story. They want to define and market us in the way that they think is appropriate. And I don't think what we're showing them is there's better ways, more effective ways. And we're seeing real business growth for everyone when we do it right.
Great points there, Keith. 20 years ago, you could say Indigenous tourism in Canada was much smaller back then. Are you seeing this industry experience a bit of a boom now, and are people actively looking for the Indigenous experience?
Yeah, we are seeing a significant change. I've been around the industry over 20 years myself, and I can tell you with great certainty, there was about 850 businesses doing this kind of work, hotels, cultural centers, handful of sort of catering companies. Artists have always been around for time immemorial, but it was very modest in terms of business structure. Today, we've got 2,750 plus businesses. Some right here in Edmonton, Enoch have been investing heavily into developing their hotel, their destination sort of experiences. You've got Métis Crossing not far from Edmonton. You've got all these amazing things that have been these businesses that are sharing culture in different ways. So the good news is that we're seeing a real, tremendous growth in business investments to grow Indigenous tourism businesses on our side of the equation. But the frank reality is the consumers, both domestically and internationally, continue to want this experience. And so we're just trying to help everyone marry those concepts together. Here's the business, and here's where the customers are, and here's how you have to make sure you sell, if you will, to them. And the great news, as you know, is that everyone looks at this from an economic perspective, which I have to speak about. But the truth is, for me, I think what I really love is I see so much cultural revitalization and actually sustaining artists and sustaining people in ways they never thought of before making a living at it, that I think there's so much more potential ahead of us.
You talked about it a bit there, and in terms of the numbers, are you able to break down or explain just how many more Indigenous people are getting involved and how much more money this industry brings to the country and provinces like Alberta?
Yeah, so it's substantial. I mean, Indigenous tourism, we at ITAC, we actually do quite an economic analysis, and without an ITAC there before, these numbers just weren't there. People didn't know the value. So the last major economic analysis was completed about a year and a half ago. The actual economic value to the Canadian economy is worth about 1.6 to 1.7 billion in direct GDP. We employ about 36,000 people, mostly Indigenous, working in those 2,750 plus jobs. For a place like Alberta, it's worth about 4 to 500 million here to the Alberta economy. So, I mean, it is really important for the economics for all of us. And I think that there's this misconception our businesses don't pay taxes. There's misconception in depending the location. A lot of our businesses, some are on reserve, some are off. But there's a lot of important investments that we attract because of these kind of developments. And I think hopefully I can say with great certainty, we believe the industry could almost triple by 2030 because the consumer demand is so high. But it's going to take an important strategy from a community to a provincial territorial level to a national level.
Keith Henry is the president and CEO of the Indigenous Tourism Association of Canada. Keith, thank you for your time.
Really appreciate having the opportunity to talk about our industry.